Hi, I'm Mayor Mike Manning. I'm here again to introduce a special segment on Channel 17 that will be a question and answer period covering the recent reassessment. You've all been notified via mail of your new assessment and how that will impact your taxes using the 2011 tax roll as an example. For the next 40 minutes, this Q&A session should present and answer any questions that are involved with this process. If not, you can call the consultant who handled the reassessment directly. That number is being scrolled at the bottom of the screen as I'm talking. If you don't find what you need by that route, you can always call my office at 270-3815, and we'll try to help you as well. Again, I urge you to take time out, watch the next 40 minutes, where all of your questions should be presented and answered. This is an important process for Watervliet. The city has not done a revaluation since 1996. So there's going to be some sharp changes in some properties and not so sharp changes on others. We're trying to do this one time in 2012, and hopefully we'll never have to do another major reassessment again, only small fluctuations. Like anything else we do here, we want you to participate and understand and have all your questions answered. So again, please watch the next segment. Thank you very much.
Hello, this is Charles Patricelli again, and what's happening here in Watervliet. It's a way of communicating with the city residents on things that are going on in the city that we think you would want to know. And I know you would probably, if you're a property owner, you might like to know what's going on with this new tax assessment. So we went right to the source, and we invited the person that's helping out with this, and I'll introduce him. His name is John Bonanno, and John is from the Municipal Assessment Services and is a contractor, I believe, with the city. Welcome, John, and you might want to start talking, and then we can ask some questions about it.
Thank you, Charlie. My name is John Bonanno, as Charlie said, and I work for Municipal Assessment Services, and we've been contracted by the City of Watervliet to do a reassessment project for the city. The reassessment project involves going out and looking at each piece of property, checking the city's inventory that's on file, making corrections where needed. We've sent out numerous letters in an attempt to get into some of the properties that weren't entered in the past, and we've gone into about 12% of the properties. We sent out a data mailer to all the property owners in the city. The data mailer had an outline of some of the key data items on each property, and we attempted to make sure that the files were correct with the data. We then did a valuation process. We used the market approach, which compares similar properties and sales of similar properties to the property. We used a cost approach to determine the value of a piece of property. And for commercial properties, we used also an income approach. So we used the three standard approaches that an appraiser would use to value each piece of property, of real property here in the city of Watervliet. The purpose of the investment by the city in this project is to bring all the assessments up to a single level, with one market value as of as of July 1st of 2011. Basically, most properties are going to be seeing an increase of about 57% or so in their assessed value.
That brings up a question I want to ask you.
Sure, Charlie.
Okay, I know we'll go. I want to throw you off again, but if you're bringing, why do we really even care whether or not we bring them up to full value or not? I mean, a person says, so what, it's 60%, so what's the difference?
That's a very good question, Charlie. In 1995, the city hired a company, Collier Trumbull Company, to come in, and they did a reassessment. At that point in time, they brought all the assessments in the city of Watervliet to what was then full market value.
100%.
100%. Right. All the properties. But what happens is over time, market values change. Certain types of properties have changed. Here in the City of Watervliet, at one time there were a lot of neighborhood grocery stores or mom and pop type of operations in different parts of the cities. A lot of those now have gone defunct. Those properties are now being used for other things. Some of them are being used for retail purposes. Some are just being used for residential purposes. Right. In the city itself, new subdivisions have come up. There's been a number of new raised ranches built in the city. Some sections of the city have seen more positive growth than other parts. Other parts of the city, maybe industry have left a certain part of the city, and the surrounding homes might have decreased in value faster at a faster rate than other parts. So what happens is, over a period of time, inequalities, if you will, in the assessments occur. So the city has invested in this project now to bring all the real property, whether it be commercial, industrial, residential, vacant land, bring it all up to a equal value level based on July 1st, 2011. Okay, that was a good question. Thanks for asking. One of the things we like to stress on when we do our public presentations is that the project is not meant by the city fathers to generate additional revenue. A lot of people have that misconception. A project of this nature is revenue neutral. The whole function is just to make sure that everybody's only paying their fair share of the tax burden. Nobody likes to pay taxes, that's for sure. But this project, again, helps to ensure that you as a taxpayer only pay your fair share of the tax burden. The full disclosure process, we follow a project of this nature follows the dictates of the state of New York. The state has rules and regulations that prescribe how a project is to be done. And we've worked very closely with the assessor's office, and the state has supplied monitors to the project to make sure that the company does, in fact, follow these procedures. One of the procedures that is required is that the municipality sends out what's called an impact or a change of assessment notice. Now, each homeowner, each property owner in the City of Watervliet has received one of these notices recently. What the notice attempts to do is it compares your prior assessment and new assessment and the tax liability associated for each of those assessments for county, for city, and for school tax purposes. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail. So you should have all received one of these notices. If you have not received an impact notice, please call the assessor's office at your earliest convenience, and we'll make sure that notice is sent out. We sent out over 2,800 notices so far. I'm going to hold up. This is what an impact notice looks like. I've worked on these for a number of years, and they can be mind-boggling to most people. They may seem a little bit confusing, so what we'll attempt to do is try to clarify the different pieces of the impact notice.
Yeah, a lot of people have seen it, but when I think what they do is they look at it and they notice that the reassessment, and unfortunately the first part that they see on it is the net change. Right. And if the net change has gone up significantly, forget the rest. It's now panic mode.
That's a good point that Charlie brought up. I worked on a project once, and I was in a town supervisor's office, and his old school teacher called up, and she goes, Tommy, his name was Tom, and she goes, my assessment went up $60,000. I live in this trailer. I can't afford to pay that kind of an increase. And I said to the supervisor, ask her what the net change was in tax liability, and it actually went down. So,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's just what you said.
Exactly.
People look at that.
I know.
On the impact notice that we have here, I've numbered a couple of the items on the impact notice to help you focus on it. The first two items are basically identification for identification purposes. The third item shows the exemption that's applicable to that property. So we do take into consideration in this process any exemptions you may be receiving, the property owner may be receiving. Most people receive, if it's a residential property, most people receive a star exemption. If it's an elderly couple that have low income, they may receive a low income exemption. For the people who've served the country in the armed services, there's the veterans exemption. So there's a number of exemptions that are an attempt to shift, if you will, the tax liability around to give concessions or breaks to certain groups for certain reasons. And that exemption is up in the noted in this on the form. The key part that Charlie was just talking about is the Section 4. And Section 4 on this impact it shows you your prior assessment. In this case, it was a 2011 assessment. Shows you the new tentative assessment and shows you the net change. And this particular impact notice, which is an actual notice that was generated in this project, the prior assessment for the property was $149,700. The new assessment, the new tentative assessment, went to $200,000. So that's an increase of $50,300. In Section 5 of the impact notice, it shows you the county taxes for county purposes, taxes for city purposes, and taxes for school purposes. And if there's an exemption noted, it's actually applied to these numbers. This particular property, even though it went from $149,700 to $200,000, and that's a $50,300 increase, this particular property actually saw a decrease in their tax liability of over $1,000.
Now, I think it's important, and you can clarify me if I'm wrong. This is, you would get the 1,000, if this was exactly the tax rates that it was in 2011, right. This is what they would probably have gone down, $1,000.
That's correct.
But more importantly, this is as it is right now. This doesn't mean that the city or the school or the county raises their taxes. It would be in about that. So it's not a promise that next year they're looking at a $1,000 decrease. They're actually looking at is if they pay their taxes like the same last year, they would have received $1,000 less.
That's correct.
I mean, not $1,000. They would have paid $1,000 less.
Right. They would have paid $1,000 less. The attempt here is to show your new assessment compared to your prior assessment and what it means in your tax liability. So we use the frozen budgets, we call them, or the prior budgets, both for the county, both for the city, and for the school. Okay. Now, I've been asked in the past why we don't inflate or change those because of typical changes. But that would distort, if you will, what the impact of the change in the assessment would be. So, yes, we use frozen budgets, and in this case, the assessment tax liability projected for this property would have went down. So I would encourage everybody, when you get over the first shock of seeing what the new tentative assessment, because everybody's assessment in the city basically has gone up in, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70, $80,000. Once you get over that shock of that net change, take the time to look on Part 6 of this to see what the net impact on your tax liability is. Now, some people are going to see significant changes up. If you see a significant increase in your tax liability, that means in the past you were probably underassessed and you were receiving a benefit and paying less taxes that your neighbors had to pick up. If you see a decrease in that tax liability, that indicates that your assessment was, that you were being overassessed before, and now that tax liability is being more equitably shared for all the property owners here in the City of Watervliet.
Okay.
Again, with the rules and regs that the state has in place, they require an informal review process, and that's a step in the, and this is a 15-month project that we've been working on, and we're kind of in the home stretch now. The informal review process is the piece of the project or the part of the project that we're now currently involved in. Once you receive your impact notice, on the back of the impact notice is a letter that tells you to review the document. If you feel that the new assessment is not what you could sell your property for, and that's the key thing, what could you sell your property? What do you think you could sell your property for if you were to try to sell it? If you don't feel that that's adequate or correct, there's information available for you to look at to see what properties have sold for here in the City of Watervliet. Also, you can compare your assessment to your neighbor's assessment. If your neighbor is assessed higher than your assessment, you can use that information to challenge or to bring to our attention so that we can lower or make an adjustment if warranted on a new tentative assessment. So what happens is we have information now available to all the property owners. We've worked with the city, and now on the city's website there's an abundance of information available. There's a listing of all the property owners' new assessments. This is information that's on the website. We also have the same information, Charlie, here. We also have the same information available here at the city's public library and in the foyer of the public library. In these pamphlets, booklets that we've printed, a list of every assessment of every piece of property in the City of Watervliet, along with the information. Some of the information that's available is the section, block, and lot. That's how the assessor, and that's how the project itself refers to most properties, by section, block, and lot. That's how your tax map here in the city is noted. We have the street address for each property, the property class code. We use the state property class codes. 210s are one-family homes. 230s would be a three-family. A 400 would be a commercial property. Then we show the current assessment. We show the square foot of living area. We show the assessment per square foot of living area. We show the building style, whether it be a ranch or old style, Cape Cod, raised ranch. Then we show the grade and condition, and whether or not there's and the number of bathrooms. So all of this information now is accessible to the property owner, and also in the back of the book here we have two listings of all the sales that were used in the project for the property owner to review. And the sales is pretty much the same information. It shows property that have sold here in the City of Watervliet. It shows what it sold for. It shows the assessment at the time. It shows the sales price per square foot, building style, condition, grade. It shows all the key variables of the sale. And what we would ask the property owner to do is, if you feel your assessment, if you want to find out if your assessment is fair, take the time to look either at the city's website or come here to the library and look through the documentation that's there for you to use to see if your assessment's correct. The city has also produced these books. All the sales that have occurred.
I feel like Vanna White, or not that I look like Vanna White.
I wish.
Yeah. I know.
The city has taken the time to publish these books that have excellent information on all the sales. If you open the book, you'll see that there's a photo of an actual property that's sold with the key data items on that property. And at one of our public meetings, these books were going around, and I heard some homeowner going, "Oh, that's what they sold that. That's what. Oh, I didn't realize the prices were that high." I think that if you take the time to go through these books and look at what property actually sold for in the City of Watervliet, you'll be surprised, and you'll find properties close to your home, similar to your home, and will help you get a better feel for what your property is actually worth. These pictures, not only are they available in these books at the library, but they're also on the website, the city website. One warning, though, is it's a huge file, and it will take some time to download. So if you go to download that file, it might be a good time to get a cup of coffee. So the information is available out there for the property owner to use to try to determine if their assessment is in fact fair and equitable, which again is the whole reason for this project. And the project is built to encourage you as a property owner to look at that information, to make sure that you feel comfortable that the new tentative assessment is in fact a true representation of market value for your property. If you do not feel it is, we encourage you to file a form with us. It's called a Watervliet review application. And the applications are, again, available on the website, on the city's website. They're available at the City Hall in the assessor's office at the front, at his desk. And they're also available here at the library and in the foyer of the library. And you would take one of these applications and fill it out, and then you have an opportunity to, once you fill out the application, you can do one of three things with that application. You can call our office and we have 2 operators online to take those phone calls. You can call our office and set up an appointment so that you can go over your application with one of our hearing officers. That's one step you can take. Another opportunity that you have is you can just mail the form into the City Hall, care of the assessor's office. Or if you have the ability to put it online, you can send it to our email address, which is also on the application. On the back of your impact notice, there, on the back of the impact notice, there's a letter that tells you, we don't have it on this though. Right. On the back of the impact notice, it will show you, tell you the phone numbers to call. It will tell you the times and places that hearings are being scheduled, and also where the information is available on the city's website. When we set up the informal meetings, we took great care to try to make them as convenient as possible to you, the property owner, to the property owners here in the City of Watervliet. We realize that in most cases today, both mothers and fathers are working or out of the house. So we set up the meetings to be on the weekends, on Saturdays, in the early evenings, late afternoons, early evenings, and we have a couple meetings scheduled, or periods to schedule meetings during the regular daytime. So we tried to make these meetings as user-friendly, if you will, to the property owner as possible. Any questions on that?
No, I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. So when you fill out the form, we can go over that in a little bit more detail. Some of the things that you might want to be looking at. Charlie was showing you the books that are available to look at the library or online. Some of the key data items that you want to be looking at when you do that is things like some of these items. Building style. When you're comparing your property or trying to compare your property to another piece of property, the first thing you want to make sure is that you're looking at a property with the same building style. What do I mean by building style? A ranch. Most people are familiar with what a ranch is. One level, built probably in the 60s or 70s. You want to pick another ranch as a comparable to yours. If you should live in a Cape Cod, you want to be looking at the Cape Cod sales as the most comparable. Or you want to be looking at the assessments of similar Cape Cods to make sure that your assessment is equitable to properties like that. So those are the building styles. There's the ones most commonly found here in the City of Watervliet have been ranch, raised ranches, Cape Cods, colonials, old style, and bungalows. Those are the most common building styles we found here in the City of Watervliet. The next thing you want to look at is the condition of your property and the condition of the sale or appraisal or comparable assessment that you're looking at. And what do we mean by condition? Again, we're following the state mandates. We're following the definitions in the state manual. They define condition. There's 5 options: poor, fair, normal, good, and excellent. And the condition is kind of associated with the eye appeal of the property. How well is the property maintained? When you look at the roof, does it obviously need to be replaced? Are shingles hanging off the side of the property? Or windows broken? If you see those types of items when you pull up to a house, when you're inspecting a house, that tends to indicate a poor or a fair condition. Also, the inside of the house, if there might be holes in the wall or doors are broken in. Those kind of items go into determining condition of poor and fair. Excellent and good condition tend to be homes that are new or in like new condition. They would be very well maintained. Windows have been replaced with modern windows. Roofs have been replaced in the last few years and well maintained. The house might have been power washed or painted. The landscaping is well maintained. We like to look at it, the way I look at it is the pride of ownership in a piece of property. If there's a high degree of pride of ownership, the condition tends to be normal, good. The next thing we look at that's a key variable is the grade of the house. Grade is the cumulative impact of all the different items that go into a house. The building material. If a house is built of bricks versus a house built of sticks. The type of roofing material that's used. If you're using 30-year-old shingles or slate versus inexpensive material. Whether it's a flat roof in a house. The types of storm windows that we use. One of the key indicators on a condition or grade of a house, would be the heating system. If a house has no central heat at all, it tends to be a economy or minimum construction. If a house has hot water heat, that tends to be a good or an excellent house. If a house has 2 or 3 fireplaces in it, that tends to, again, to be an indicator of a good to excellent construction. The number of bathrooms in the house. If you have 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, again, that tends to be a good to excellent. If you have 1.5 bathrooms, that tends to be an average. If you have a half a bathroom, tends to be an economy or minimum. So those are the kind of factors. Grade is a cumulative factor of a lot of different items. But you can find our determination of grade for all the properties are in the books that we have shown you before. So try to pick building styles that are similar to your property. Try to pick a condition that's similar to your property. And try to pick a grade of a house that's similar to your property when you're doing your analysis. The fourth factor that we stress is square foot of living area. Square foot of living area, as prescribed by the state of New York, is determined by measuring the exterior of a property. Right. Okay? We measure the outside walls of the property. This is the same process that a real estate appraiser would use if he or she were doing an appraisal for a refinance or for a mortgage. It's the same process that your insurance agent does when he or she is trying to determine the amount of homeowners insurance that you need on your property. So that's the standard of the industry. We use the outside measurements. I know that I've had some calls from homeowners where they've measured the inside the rooms, and they said, well, I only have this amount of square feet. And I understand their approach, but it's not the same approach that we're required to use. We're required by the project's guidelines, and it's also the industrial standard, to use the outside measurements of a property. We do not include things like attached garages or porches in our calculations, but we do measure the outside, and we do calculate the square footage. Also, we look at half-story and second stories. We add those into the calculations. So when you look at the books, you will find the square footage of each property as we've determined in there for you to do a better analysis and comparison of the property. And again, all of these variables that we have picked up and talked about here, Charlie, the style, the condition, the grade, square foot, we follow the state mandate on how to determine those. And if a property owner wants to, on the website, in the introduction letter to the city's website on this reassessment project, you can click on the New York State website, and if you go through a search, you can find the actual manuals that the state has that we've used on the project. So where we are now is you've received the impact notice and you've had an opportunity to look at the new tentative assessment to see that your property's assessment has gone up $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. You've looked at that impact notice to see what the increase in tax liability or decrease in tax liability is determined using frozen budgets and that new tentative assessment. You've taken the time out to either look at the city's website or go to the library to look at the books that are available for you. You've come to some kind of feeling whether or not your new tentative assessment is correct or incorrect. Once you've gone through all those steps and you have some data, then you go back to the informal review application. And again, we would encourage every property owner to, if you go through this and you feel your tentative assessment is erroneous, please take the time out to fill out the application and either make an appointment with a representative of Municipal Assessment Services to go over that with you, or mail it to the city, or if you have the ability to send it in by email. The system is a mass appraisal system like this is built for your participation, for the property owner's participation. And nobody is, there's no retribution, if you will, on anybody's part for coming in with additional information. We're trying to make this a high level of confidence on the part of all the property owners that the new tentative assessments are, in fact, a good representation of their value.
Do you find that when you were doing the initial review of the property, getting the data, the problems are more likely to occur where the homeowners refuse to let you into the property?
Yes and no, and there's some variables that you could only make a 100% confident level determination if you get inside the property. So there is that. The quality of data, the better the quality of data, the better the predictive value. So the more homes that we can get into, or that the assessor staff gets into over time, the better the quality of the product, the better the.
Gives you a better basis point.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But we do have, I don't know if we want to go through, I'll go through the review application in a little bit more detail, or?
Yeah, look, we're pretty close to the time, so let's, you run through the application quick and we'll be able to put it in.
Thank you. The review application has, I like to look at it, three basic pieces to it. The first piece is the upper section, and that information is basically identification information on the parcel. We're looking at the section, block, and lot, which again is the tax map reference to the property, and that's how most people in this profession identify a property. Also, the property address, we ask for your name. We ask for, you can write down what your new preliminary assessment is. And also, there's a few lines on that in that section, for you as a property owner to put down why you feel the assessment is erroneous. And sometimes, as Charlie just mentioned about getting into a property, sometimes there's factors that we don't see from the outside, or even when we do get inside, we may not notice. One of the things would be basements. Maybe you live in a spot where there's a lot of water in your basement. If you take a picture of that, bring that in with your application and write it out on that little section. We have water in our basement, significant problems.
So again, this is a review of your assessment. This is not the grievance.
This is the that's a good question. This is the informal part of the grievance process. Okay. So what happens here is that you fill out the form, and the first section of the form is the I call identification piece, and you do have an opportunity to put down, to verbalize what may be a problem with your property. Maybe you're downwind from a landfill, or if you're very close to 787 and the noise is really high. And those are kind of factors that you might want to put in to verbalize in that section. The second piece, Charlie, deals with the application where where you need to look for similar properties using the reference material that we've talked about. Similar properties, you would want to put this section, block, and lot, the owner's name, the address of those properties. Then you also want to look at the sales price if you're using a sale, or the new assessment if you're using an assessment of a property. You want to put down the style. We talked about the different styles that are available. Raised ranch, Cape Cod, old style, bungalows. Then there's a spot for you to put down the square foot of living area. Again, all this information is in the books. Also the grade and condition. And then you can put a comment. It may be as simple as you might live in a Cape Cod, and there's 2 or 3 similar Cape Cods right next door at your neighbors, and you would put down their information, their assessment, and then your comments would be, these are my neighbors' properties. They're in better condition than mine. This one has a pool, and make those type of comments to reinforce your position that the assessment that's on your property is, in most cases, what you're going to be arguing is too high. And then the third part of the application, this piece here, is the bottom. And on the bottom, it's simply you have an opportunity to state what you feel the new tentative assessment should be, what you feel your property would sell for if it was to sell. And then we ask you to certify that all the statements on this application are correct to the best of your knowledge and ability. And then we ask you to sign it and to date it. And that's the application itself. One of the things that you brought up just now, and I just want to kind of mention that, you said, is this part of the formal or informal process? The state of New York, in this type of a project, and even by the outside of the scope of this project, but in the context of you as a real property owner, the rights you have to contest your assessment, there's several levels that we can go through. What I like to say to people is when you go out and you buy something at a supermarket, or you buy a new car, or you buy something of value, you have to pay a sales tax on it. You don't have an opportunity to say that's the wrong amount of money. Or when you do your federal income tax return, you fill it out, you don't have an opportunity there to challenge the federal government on what your federal income tax rate is or what you pay in federal taxes. But when it comes to property ownership, you do have several levels of recourse to challenge that assessment. Take the time to look at sales, take the time to look at similar properties. You can challenge your assessment at any time, even out of the context of this reassessment project. The steps, we kind of went through the steps involved in this, what we call the informal process. It's now ongoing. We'll be taking appointments from March the 10th through March the 24th. We've had dates that are designated on the back of the impact notice that tell you as a property owner when those appointments are being held. And again, we try to schedule them so it's most convenient for the property owners. Once you get through that informal process, if you're still unhappy with the results of the tentative assessment, you have a right as a property owner in New York State to contest your assessment to the Board of Assessment Review. Board of Assessment Reviews are a group of individuals from a municipality, in this case it would be the City of Watervliet, that sit on a board and they listen to the information from the property owner, they listen to the information from the assessor, and they make an independent decision, if you will, as to what the assessment should be. The Board of Assessment Review applications have to be into the City Hall prior to the 4th Tuesday in May, and I believe that's May 22nd this year. And you can get an application at City Hall, the assessor's office, or you can go online to the New York State website. I believe it's www.tax.newyork.gov. And if you follow through the trail of drop-downs on that menu, you'll find forms and publications, and you can print out one of those applications. You fill out that form, you bring it to the Board of Assessment Review, and then they make a determination whether to lower your assessment to what you feel it's correct, or to somewhere in between, or to maintain the assessment as the city has now determined it to be. But the state has also instituted a third level of appeal. They work through the unified court systems, and it's called SCAR hearings, and that's Small Claim Assessment Review hearings. And a SCAR hearing officer is appointed by, as I said, the unified court system. He or she is an independent person with some background and knowledge of the real property system. The SCAR hearing officers will give you, the property owner, an opportunity to present your case. You want to show them similar properties that sold for less or assessed for less. You want to show them things that make your property worth less than we have determined it to be. Then the assessor's office will have an opportunity to present their case and the documentation used to come up with your tentative assessment. And the SCAR hearing officer then makes an independent determination of where your property is. So you as a property owner have three opportunities in this process to challenge your assessment. The informal process that we're now ongoing, and that's with a representative of Municipal Assessment Service. With the Board of Assessment Review, which are an independent board that is comprised of members of the community here in Watervliet. And the third opportunity is a SCAR hearing, Small Claim Assessment Review. You would get an application at the county clerk's office. There is a small filing fee for that form, but if you win your case, you get back that filing fee. And the SCAR hearing officer, again, is an independent a person appointed by the unified court systems to make a determination. So you actually have three opportunities to go through the process and challenge your assessment. In kind of a wrap-up of this, the Watervliet reassessment project, again, these are parts of the overheads that we used in our public presentation. The city went through great lengths to get the word out to property owners. We've had 7 or 8 public information meetings, some of them geared for the senior citizens. We've had meetings at the Elks Club, and I want to thank the Elks for making their facility available to us. We've had a number of meetings at City Hall, and we've had a number of meetings at the Senior Center. We've attempted to bring this information out to the public so that they can feel comfortable in the process and voice their concerns. As a wrap-up, I would just like to say this. First of all, that the project the information is all out there for you to look at. Nothing is kept secret. Nothing is hidden. The information is all public. I've worked in this field for a number of years. There was a point in time when the assessor's information was just one big book that they would open up.
Huge book.
And that was all that was. It was just the assessment on the property and some information. There was no physical data. We have built with the city, we have updated the city's files. There's photos of all the property. There's physical quantities on all the property. That information is public information. The booklets that are available on site at the city's website and in the library, all of that information is available for you to review and look at. We encourage you as a taxpayer, a property owner here in the City of Watervliet, to look at that information, to make sure that you feel comfortable that the new tentative assessment is in fact a good representation of what your property would sell for if you were going to sell it. Now, we realize that a lot of people have no plans to sell their property, but that's the question you want to ask yourself. Is this new assessment fair or a good comparison, representation of what I think I could sell my property for if I was to sell it? And the last thing I'd like to kind of leave in the taxpayer's mind is that the projects are revenue neutral. The outcome of the project is just to shift the top tax liability so that everybody's only paying their fair share. Most of the people who have seen a significant increase in their tax liability as portrayed on the impact notice, those were people that were underassessed before. That meant that their neighbors were picking up their tax liability. For those of you who have seen a significant decrease, now you've been brought up to a fair level, brought down to a fair level. So that kind of is the project. Is there any questions you might have, Charlie? Or?
No, I don't think I don't think I have any real questions. It's just you went over it all. I think it's incumbent upon each individual property owner to relax, take a look at it, and know that this is kind of a better way or fairer way of making sure everything is done correctly. There might be errors or mistakes in between, or something that you're as you're going through this whole thing that you're trying to work out and get a better handle on it.
There was one other thing that I'd like to mention. That the city is not letting things just sit on this. The city has entered into an agreement with the state of New York to maintain assessments at an equitable level of full market level of 100%. So the city will be doing an ongoing review of data and in an attempt to maintain the assessments at this full level value. They do receive some funding from the state if they meet the state's criteria, and that's a goal of the city, I know, assessor's office to maintain that level.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, I think that was a lot of information. Hope it was worthwhile. Again, if you have any questions, the email addresses, the phone numbers were all listed. I'm listing them probably now. And if you have anything else, always can contact City Hall, and they'll lead you in the right direction. Thank you, John, for your help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, my name is Mark Gilchrist, and I'm the assessor in the City of Watervliet. And in the last week or so, you have received an impact notice from the city that shows you what your new assessment, your new tentative assessment is in the city. It also includes an estimate of what your taxes would have been last year with the new assessment. We would like to encourage you, if you believe the new assessment is not the market value of your property, we encourage you to make a phone call to Municipal Assessment Services and schedule an appointment. We have daytime, afternoon, early evening, and Saturday hours when you can sit with this company and discuss the assessment. There's also an application included with that impact notice. Please fill it out. You can find all the information that goes on that form on our website. All the sales in the city, all the assessments in the city are available to you on the website or in hard copy at the assessor's office or over in the library foyer. Again, I encourage you to seek review if you believe your assessment is too high. Thank you.